Are in the Cardinal Room. It is 7:02. This is the monthly legislative meeting, Board of School Directors of the Upper Dublin School District. I'd like to welcome everybody. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I notice there's a lot of principals here tonight from our districts. I'd like to ask that they lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So, proud principals of Upper Dublin, everybody else please stand. Thank you, proud principals. We will move on to the roll call. Ms. Evans.
Mrs. Franczyk. Mrs. Good. Here. Dr. Kim.
Excuse.
Dr. Ludwig. Here. Mr. Rapsky. Here. Mrs. Rothman. Here. Mrs. Sherpier. Mr. Sirota. Dr. Levinowitz.
Here.
One
Okay.
absent.
So, we're up to the board president's welcome, so I'd like to welcome everybody. It's great to see so many people here tonight. Many in the room consist of our great staff and their families, because in just a few minutes we will recognize 1,335 years of service in the Upper Dublin School District. 1,335 years. And they're not all yours, Mr. Rogers. They're not. So again, congratulations. And I know that many of you will leave after the presentation, and that's fine. I know you need to get home. You got some papers to mark. You got a lot of work to do, and get ready for another exciting day in Upper Dublin. However, I want to spend just a few minutes tonight describing some of the other items that the board will be voting on tonight. And I think it's very important and relevant for many of our staff here tonight. I'm pleased to announce that we have an agreement with the UDEA. After a few months of informal negotiations, we have an agreement that is fair to both sides. UDA membership has already voted. There will be a presentation on the proposed contract, and the board will be voting later in the evening. Tonight, we continue to move through the budget process for 2019-2020 with a review of the revenue budget. Very exciting presentation by Ms. Bray. Greater detail is always presented at our Finance Committee meetings. We continue to move forward with the Sandy Run Middle School project, and there are a few motions tonight on that agenda. Under Finance, we are approving our share of the 2019-2020 Eastern Center for Arts and Technology budget. Our cost for next year will be $529,265, which is a decrease from this year. Also in Finance, we are transferring $515,827 to the Capital Projects account and $448,503 to the Debt Service account. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Also, under Finance, we will vote on a joint resolution. The resolution will be signed by the Board of School Directors and the Upper Dublin Education Association. This is insisting that the Pennsylvania General Assembly adequately fund public schools and invest in students. The entire resolution is an attachment in tonight's agenda. Under Personnel, we say farewell to 3 longtime administrators who are retiring. Our Director of Human Resources, Mr. Tom Sigafus, our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Brenda Bray, and our Director of Curriculum, Instruction, Assessment, and Professional Development, Ms. Ava Morrison. We sincerely thank them for their combined 41 years of service to Upper Dublin School District, and we wish them the very best in the next chapter of their lives. To us, they will always be Cardinals. Indeed, there's a lot going on in Upper Dublin, and we're very proud to serve the school district of Upper Dublin School District. We will now move on to the next item. Daniel? I know you have midterms coming up, Daniel, so.
Thank you, Dr. Levinowitz. I hope everyone has had a terrific start to their new year. Students are now settling back into the swing of things after a luxurious winter break. In athletic news, our girls basketball team has continued to have a phenomenal season and are currently 14-3. They are ready to face off Upper Moreland tomorrow night. The end of winter sports is right around the corner. On a different note, it's been a big couple of weeks for the arts department. The Upper Dublin Marching Band recently held a Dine and Donate at Fireside and Ambler to promote their program. In theater news, a Disney concert was hosted in the beginning of this month in the school library in order to promote Winnie the Pooh the musical, which happened a couple weeks ago. Both shows, which occurred on the 12th and 13th, were near sellout. Additionally, auditions for the spring musical Grease just occurred on January 22nd, and the cast list was posted this past Friday. Students are very excited to participate in what is going to be a great show. The high school just finished up a book drive that went on over the course of the month. Students could bring in gently used books and donate them to HIP Philadelphia Elementary Academy. Everyone has continued to study hard for midterms that started this past Friday and will end tomorrow. We have now reached the halfway point in the school year, and students are excited for the fresh start that the third quarter brings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. And I know you have midterms, and some of your teachers are here tonight. And I think it'll be a good practice for you to leave now and study. I don't think they're going to give you any play. So thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kaplan. Moving on to our superintendent's report, Dr. Yanni.
Good evening, everyone. January every year, we take a moment to celebrate and honor our Board of School Directors for their countless hours of service to our district, to our students, and to our community. These 9 folks spend a great deal of time every month in committee and in legislative meeting providing governance to the school district. At your seats, there are a number of items from the various schools thanking you for your service. I'll echo Dr. Levinowitz's comments about the great opportunity we have here tonight to honor the many folks that we will greet in just a few moments for their years of service. I think the students of the Upper Dublin School District are incredibly lucky to have the caliber of teachers that we have in the district, and we look forward to congratulating each of them in just a few moments. The fair funding formula that Dr. Levinowitz mentioned is a really important thing on our agenda for tonight. Many people don't know that the state of Pennsylvania ranks 46th out of 50th in the amount of state aid that they provide to school districts. And so what that means is the burden for funding public education in the Commonwealth goes right to the taxpayer. So I know we've had a lot of conversations about taxes over the years in Upper Dublin, but one of the things we want to make sure is that we urge our lawmakers in Harrisburg to fund education at appropriate levels. The best gift that we can give not only the students of Upper Dublin, but of all districts is a high quality education. Tonight, the board is going to approve the school calendar for school year 2019-2020. Included in the packet was a copy of the calendar, but just before this meeting, we made a few adjustments, and I'll review those adjustments. December 23rd was a date that many of us had concerns about in terms of the number of students and staff that may be calling out. So although it appears in your packet tonight that the 23rd is a day of school, it's actually now a day off. To make up for that, the November day in the calendar that is slated right now for professional development will become a student day, and that in-service day will be moved to the end of the year. So winter break next year will begin on December 20th. So everyone will go into that weekend ready for a great winter break. Also, as Dr. Levinowitz mentioned, tonight we have up for approval, the board will consider the approval of the 4-year contract with the Upper Dublin Education Association. I've known the folks that have led the Upper Dublin Education Association for less than a year, but one thing that I can tell you, I've had the opportunity to work with several leadership teams, several associations in several districts. And I, too, was a union association president at one time. And I really want to thank Art Levinowitz and Mark Sirota for their hard work and negotiations, as well as Brenda Bray and Tom Sigafus and Jen Baldessano for all the analysis behind the scenes. And I would also like to thank co-presidents Maureen Schmidt and Doug Sample. She told me I had to put her first, even though alphabetically D comes before S and SA before SC, but I did that right. So Hannah Kim, Sam Erickson, Randy Winheim, and Susan Myers, along with Reed Roser. It was a really collaborative effort that began in November, and tonight we bring it to resolution. I would be remiss if I did not say a first public thank you to our retiring administrators. Being new to a school district is always a daunting challenge, but I would like to thank three members of cabinet, Brenda Bray and Tom Sigafus, for such a great welcome and all of your collaboration and teamwork. And we will celebrate you many more times, I'm sure, before the year is over. And Ava Morrison is leaving us to become the head of school at Silver Spring Martin Luther School. She'll be leaving public ed and moving into a private setting. So we're very excited for what lies ahead for her. And Kathy Smythe, our reading coordinator, has said that she's not retiring, but she's reinventing herself. So I think we'll refer to all of our retirees, not as retirees, but as reinventors. So they'll be gone in a few months, but surely not forgotten. That concludes my report.
Okay, moving on in the agenda, we are up to the presentations. 1,335 years of service in the Upper Dublin School District. Mr. Sigafus, and I believe Dr. Yanni and myself will also assist in the award presentations.
This is always my favorite part of the year, to recognize our employees for their many years of service. And it's not just the time that they spend on the clock or on the designated work time, but I know the time and the effort that goes into place beyond regular work hours. And it's great to see so many family, friends, and colleagues here to honor them as well. So the process that we are going to do is when your name is called, please come up. We have Dr. Yanni, our superintendent, and our school board president, Dr. Levinowitz, who will honor you with a gift and certificate or pin or plaque or gift. So as you accept those items, the rest of the board The rest of the board and administration up here at the front table would also like to congratulate you. So as you move around the table, feel free to shake hands with the rest of those assembled as well. A reminder that we're going to do a photo at the end of the program. So we ask all of our honorees to join us out in the hallway when we take a brief recess for one group photo of all the honorees who are here with us this evening. Okay. With that, we're going to get started with our 15 years of service employees. We're starting with some of these individuals are not here, but we're going to call their names to be recognized anyway. Rachel Bennett, Sandy Run Middle School science teacher. Edward Bush, Fort Washington Elementary School 4th grade teacher. Come on up. Stephanie Coletti, Sandy Run Middle School Family and Consumer Science teacher. Robert Dean, Fort Washington Elementary School OMT supervisor. Rob Fusner. He is our district maintenance personnel. Okay. Coming up, yeah. Also Sharon Gardner, Sandy Run Middle School world language teacher. Melissa Gibson, Upper Dublin High School social studies teacher. Ronald Hillman, Upper Dublin High School language arts teacher. Jessica Jones, Upper Dublin High School social studies teacher. Timothy McBain, Upper Dublin High School Social Studies teacher. Margaret Malatak, Upper Dublin High School Language Arts teacher. Eileen McMenamin, Sandy Run Middle School educational assistant. Chris Mitchner, Upper Dublin High School associate principal. Heidi Patrick, Sandy Run Middle School world language teacher. David Price, Upper Dublin High School science teacher. Alice Rasmussen, Upper Dublin High School secretary, athletic department. Richard or Reed Roser, Fort Washington Elementary School grade 5 teacher. William Rose, district transportation bus driver. Jessica Satchin, Upper Dublin High School guidance counselor. Colleen Schultz, Maple Glen Elementary School executive secretary. Donna Steck, Upper Dublin High School educational assistant. Kimberly Stern, Upper Dublin High School language arts teacher. Kenrick Swift, Sandy Run Middle School custodian. Marissa Tester, Jarretttown Elementary School reading teacher. And Howard White, district transportation bus driver. Okay. Next, moving into our 20 years of service employees. First up is Nicole Atkins, Jarretttown Elementary School kindergarten teacher. Next is James Bucafori, district HVAC and maintenance employee. Next, we have Alicia Giancarlo Hart, Upper Dublin High School world language teacher. Lisa Green, Upper Dublin High School world language teacher. Next is Arlene Janishek, Fort Washington Elementary School secretary. Melissa Joyce, Thomas Fitzwater Elementary School kindergarten teacher. Kimberly Lebowski, Thomas Fitzwater Elementary School kindergarten teacher. Kristen Lagerstedt, Sandy Run Middle School social studies teacher. Julie Marshall, Upper Dublin High School special ed teacher. Curtis McDonald, district transportation bus driver. Daniel Pring, Upper Dublin High School social studies teacher. Christopher Smith, Upper Dublin High School science teacher. Richard Smith, Upper Dublin High School music teacher. And Elva Yasher, Upper Dublin High School World Language teacher. Our next category is 25 years of service. First up is Brittany Boyda, Jarretttown Elementary School second grade teacher. Audrey Carminati, Maple Glen Elementary School second grade teacher. Jeffrey Dillon, Jarretttown Elementary School grade 5 teacher. Brian Dugans, Thomas Fitzwater Elementary School grade 5 teacher. Betty Eisenberg, Thomas Fitzwater Elementary School reading teacher. Gary Height, Sandy Run Middle School gifted and science teacher. Patricia Kiefer, Fort Washington Elementary School ed assistant. Brian Leslie, Sandy Run Middle School grade 6 pre-algebra teacher. Matthew Matakovic, Jarretttown Elementary School and Fort Washington Elementary School music teacher. Ronald Mesticelli, District Transportation Mechanic. Christine Roberts, actually all the elementary schools, ESL teacher. Richard Schmidt, Upper Dublin High School science teacher. Okay, Matthew Toner, Administration Building Supervisor of Operations. And Judith Winship, Upper Dublin High School science teacher. And our 30 years of service category, starting off with Joseph Aceta, Maple Glen Elementary School and Thomas Fitzwater Elementary School, music teacher. Brenda Caviston, Jarretttown Elementary School second grade teacher. Catherine Klein, Sandy Run Middle School grade 6 teacher. Mary Gaiton, Sandy Run Middle School English teacher. Claire McCrae, Fort Washington Elementary School reading teacher. Susan Parsons, Maple Glen Elementary School and Jarretttown Elementary School enrichment program. Julia Rinaldi Rank, Jarretttown Elementary School instructional support specialist. John Rogers, Upper Dublin High School art teacher. Kimberly Schuler, Upper Dublin High School and District Assistant Principal and District Safety Administrator. Francis Schwabenland, Sandy Run Middle School reading teacher. And Nancy Zinni, Jarretttown Elementary School kindergarten teacher. I'd like to congratulate all of our honorees, and just a reminder, we'll be taking a photo out in the hallway, and I believe Dr. Levinowitz is going to declare a brief recess of the meeting.
I declare a brief recess of this meeting. Pictures outside. Okay, we are ready to bring the meeting back to order. Thank you. Okay, we're in the middle of the presentations. This is the second presentation of the evening. There are 3 tonight. This will be the presentation on professional staff contract of the UDEA, and this will be done by the tag team of Jones and Mr. Sigafus.
Before we do that, we do have one more surprise for the board, and Mr. Vinogradov will play a brief video. This is staff and students showing their appreciation for the board.
It's School Board Appreciation Month, and we'd just like to thank you guys for the endless opportunities you provide inside the classroom and out. You've allowed us to grow from kindergarten to 12th grade, providing programs and electives and just different opportunities for us to get out there, branch out, find ourselves, and just know what we want to do later on in life. And thank you for that.
I just wanted to say thank you to our wonderful school board for always considering the arts as part of educating the whole child here at Upper Dublin. We know that's really important to all of our kids, making sure they're well-rounded, and I just wanted to say thank you for always prioritizing that.
A sincere thank you to the school board on behalf of all of my fellow students for providing us with all of the opportunities that we get here in Upper Dublin that we couldn't get anywhere else. We do some really remarkable things in this district that just not many other districts see, and none of that would be possible without you guys. So thank you for all the hard work you do, and keep it up.
I would like to say thank you to the school board for providing materials for band, orchestra, and math Olympiads.
I just want to say thank you for all the programs that you provide and things that you give us, such as the volleyball program, the Greenfield studio, and other things like the Chromebooks. I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you, school board, for everything you do.
Upper Dublin School Board, thank you for supporting technology in the district and the arts in the district. Without you guys, we couldn't do what we do.
Thank you for supporting kindness each and every day in our school.
Thank you for this amazing high school we get to come to every day.
Thank you so much for supporting our students and our staff. From a guidance perspective, it really helps. Thank you.
Thank you for providing me and other students and teachers with all the technology that we need to be successful students.
Thank you, school board, for providing the orchestra and chorus concert.
Hey, school board, Upper Dublin School District, thank you so much for allowing us to do this. It's events like this that really makes us special and puts us above the rest. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, school board. Thank you.
Thank you, Upper Dublin Board of School Directors, for truly, truly caring and loving children.
Hi, I want to thank the Board of Directors for the School District of Upper Dublin for all the support that you have given us for our Excellence and Equity Committees. I'm a member of the Gender and Equity Committee, and your support is valued and so important to our goals.
Thank you for funding our PE classes and giving us all the equipment that we have.
Thank you so much for your hours of thoughtful and selfless service to our community. Your support of innovation touches the future by empowering our children today.
Well, on behalf of the board, thank you so much. And I think speaking for everybody, it really is an honor to be on the board, and if we did not enjoy what we were doing, we wouldn't be sitting up here tonight, Monday night. So it's a great place to be, and Upper Dublin proud, I think, for all of us. Any other comments? Okay, well, thank you so much for putting that together. Now, any other surprises? Okay, thank you. Ms. Brain, the Sigafus.
We always get to follow the fun event. Thank you again for that. Tonight, Tom and I will be talking about the Upper Dublin School District Professional Staff contract. And we all started out with really 4 bulleted goals: a sustainable framework that minimizes if not eliminate, the use of district fund balance to pay for the reoccurring expenses, compensation structure that reflects the economic challenges of the district and its community, market-driven healthcare benefits that include increased employee contributions, and minimize the risk of unexpected costs with a low amount designated in the budget fund balance. So we're looking at a lot of numbers on a screen, but this is something that's important when we calculate the total cost of a contract. And you're going to see in 2 slides how important it is and what the cost of PSERS primarily has done over the past few years compared to moving forward. I hate to say that the increases are smaller percentages moving over the next 4 years, but that's very important again in calculating the total cost of the contract. When we do a 4-year look back period back to 2014-15, the rate was 21.4%. By the time this contract is finished, it'll be at 35.84%. But again, the steepest climbs are behind. Increase in PSERS expense. This is kind of a confusing slide, so bear with me and stay with me. If we use the 2018-19 salary, which we both sides agreed on, that's what we talked about, of $32,096,075, and a related PSERS expense of $6,592,534, you will notice that the increment for the 4-year contract, again based on that salary alone, is only $386,758. If we had used, or I did use, but if you take the same $32 million and do a look back to the 21.4% that I was talking about, the increase of PSERS during that period of time was $1.9 million. So this leveling, this finally plateau, even though it will drive more expense and more revenue, big change for us to consider over the next 4 years. So again, we're taking a longer look back, all the way back. Mr. Sigfus pulled this together. Base salary all the way back in 2910, which is very near and dear to me. That was my first complete budget here in Upper Dublin. $24 million. And for 17-18, for the year that we finished, $31,028,186. You can see the increases. You can see the lowest salary that was on the scale, the highest salary, and the average salary. Now, please keep in mind for everyone in the audience that that average salary is simply a mathematical calculation, and it's based on total amount of salary divided by the number of teachers, so of 332.2. So your mix that's in your teaching force will obviously impact that average number. The PSERS percentage, 32.57% for last year, and the district 50%, just slightly over $5 million. So here, I believe, is where I want to hand the microphone to Mr. Sigfus as we talk about current and future contracts.
So similar to the previous contract, you can sort of see what the salary are currently for this year, and then projected to be for the 4 years of the agreement. The percentages that go along with the amounts, they're in blue and yellow for each of the increases. That includes step. For each year of experience, teacher moves a step on the salary scale. In addition, as they earn additional credits, they move across the salary scale for like a master's plus 15 credits or a master's plus 30 credits, but that's not reflected in those percentages. In the past, in the lookbacks, those items could certainly be included as well. So there's the cumulative increase over the 4 years of the contract. So dollar-wise, we're looking at $4,251,617, or 13.25% over those 4 years. The next blue and yellow section shows you the lowest salary currently, as well as going through the 4 years. So we're moving from this year's $50,125 for someone entering under Bachelor Step 1 to the 4th year of the agreement, that Bachelor Step 1 being a $60,025. The highest salary this year, it's a master's with 30 credits with Step 14, conceptually 14 years of experience if you move a step each year. This year, that salary is $110,220. By the end of the 4 years, that will be $118,230. The average salary calculations that you see there, you really won't find in any of the salary scales once the agreement is put together. It's really taking the total amount of salary that's being paid divided by the number of teachers we have. So that is a way that we in most districts figure out, okay, what's the average teacher salary for that given year. So this year's average salary is at $96,039, and by the end of the 4-year agreement, not taking into account any kind of retirements, sabbaticals, or anything like that, would be $108,760. Our number of teachers, we kept it flat at this current year, which is 334.2 teachers. So that's something to keep in mind. If we increase teachers, then those numbers will go up. If we decrease teachers, those numbers will go down.
And I was just going to say retirements or changing staffing would also obviously impact the numbers.
So the other big significant factor is PSERS, or the retirement or pension system. That percentage, as Ms. Bray mentioned, is plateauing. The increases are smaller than they had been previously, but they're still growing a little bit, and that shows the PSERS effect to the salaries. So if you're looking down at the bottom, as far as new money for salary, the FICA tax, PSERS tax, and cumulative amount over the 4 years, that's $5,562,889. So that's our best projection, going forward. The Master's Step 30, Master's Plus 30, Step 14. As you sort of heard earlier, our employees tend to stick with us, and we recognize those years of service. Well, Master's Plus 30, Step 14, over the 4 years of this contract will continue to grow unless we have retirements. Teacher retirements, the best we can predict is a handful, anywhere from like 3 to 5 teachers could retire in any given year. But as employees move up to that top step, you can see the percentage increasing. Just looking from this year to next year, for example, there are 13 teachers that are due to move to Step 14. Same thing, if you look from 1920 to 2021, we're projecting, if nobody leaves, then 16 teachers, adding on to that step. So, and then the top, salary for that 2022-23. As I said, it doesn't include any retirees or column movements or sabbaticals that would be, taking place during that time. This slide attempts to show you, with the new agreement, what the average salary scale increase would be, not counting the step. In looking at previous years, you can see back during 2006 and 7 where it was 11.5, and there are some smaller years there as well, like 2008 and 9.9%. We had a freeze and no step or no column in 2014-15 school year. Then things were pretty lean. We did 1%, 1%. And then the 2-year extension was 1.75% for each of those 2 years. So when you look at those numbers and keep that in mind, the 4 years for this agreement is fair and reasonable. The 1.25 is a little bit lower to help us with this next year. We resume the 1.75 we had from the previous 2 years. And then looking out, we're hoping that with some developments that are taking place and maybe some new coming in, that the 2.10 and the 2.40 in years 3 and 4 may be manageable, and also recognize our staff for all of their hard work. Our first look for medical and prescription costs. Medical increase, for the first look, we typically get 3 looks. The first look shows very good medical increase of only 2.5%. However, prescription doesn't look as good with an increase of 7.92%. Typically, the second and third looks do go down, but we're self-funded, so that means whatever our claims are, that has an impact on what our rates will be for the following year. But the positive effect of not only this agreement, but being a part of the consortium, is in addition to our 3 main plans, the POS, the Open Choice 1, and Open Choice 2, which if you look at those amounts, that's the full cost of what we pay for medical rates for, say, a single employee point of service is at $6,524. If you chose Open Choice 2, it's $6,458. Not a big change there. So with the consortium and labor and management working together, we implemented an Open Choice 3 to really give some option to our employees. And you can see there is a significant decrease in the cost for employees that choose Open Choice 3. Along with the professional staff, administrators, support staff, now that we have a contract with them as well, and all of our employee groups do have the option to choose that Open Choice 3. As I mentioned, our prescription costs for this year, those are the figures. So we're hoping that 17.92% comes down, but we have seemed to noticed over the years, last year it was about the same decrease. So we went down by about 17%, came up by about 7%. So each year it does fluctuate, again, since we're self-funded, and depending on how we perform as a consortium. So those are the costs for the current prescription plan, which is a 10, 20, 35. That means $10 for generic, $20 for name brand, 35 for formulary type prescription. The employee contributions, because it's certainly not just the district that's paying for the benefits, our employees are contributing those current amounts that you see there, depending on the plan that they choose. The Open Choice 3, the OC3, has a lower, that 9% employee contribution rate, because you'll see in the next screen where it's mutually advantageous for the district and the employee if it's a plan that works for them. But the final 2 years of the agreement are where we see the increases. We really are pretty much stretching the upper end of what teachers in our IU and our area are contributing to benefit. So there's really not much more we can do other than falling out of sync with our neighboring districts as far as what employees are contributing. Dental and vision are status quo and same. They're not quite as costly benefits as medical and prescription, so we're able to do that. Here's the screen that I was mentioning for the comparison between, say, Open Choice 1, and this is the family option, compared to Open Choice 3. That's listing there the full cost for the program for this year, what the district contribution rate would be for Open Choice 1, which is $15,293.86. Well, an employee, that's with UDEA professional staff, the district is contributing 91%. The district's contributing 83.5%. The employee is contributing 16.5%. So the district paying that $15,000 in additional money, and the employee is paying $3,022.14 towards that plan. Comparing that with the Open Choice 3, employees that choose that, the district would be paying 91% of that $15,000, so that's that $14,126.84, and then the employee would be paying that $1,397.16. So it really is a win-win because the district, for employees that choose that for the family plan, the district would be saving that $1,167, and the employee would be saving $1,624.98. But it all comes down to is that the right plan for the employee? Because down below, you can sort of see, an employee that for the 10/20/70 plan, that's the open choice one, an employee that goes to their primary care physician pays a $10 copay, specialist $20, and 70% if they're out of network with no deductible. Open choice 3, it's 25/50/50, meaning going to your primary care physician, you'd be paying $25 as opposed to the $50 for a specialist, or 50% if the person is out of network. And that plan also does have a deductible of $1,100 single or $3,300 family. So, Open Choice 3 is really meant for that employee that's, say, healthy, maybe goes to their primary care physician once, maybe twice a year. Take that away from the savings, it could work out to be a good choice. An employee that maybe has quite a few medical issues or concerns, that may not be, the best option, but at least it does provide some options for our employees. So in summary, the cost over 4 years, the new salary needed is that $4,251,617. The PSERS and FICA effect is an additional $1,311,272. And then that total is where we get $5,562,889. The other agreement provisions were dotting the I's, crossing the T's of the actual agreement. And once it's finalized, we'll have it on the website for all to see. Other provisions are that the extracurricular and extra pay rates will increase by that same increase percentage, that 1.25, the 1.75, 2.1, and 2.4. All those other rates in the contract will be increased by those same percentages. We did lower the personal day cap. It is currently 10%. So 10% of our teachers is about 34 teachers, down to 7.5, which would be about 25 teachers, can elect to have a personal day on any given day, except first 10 days or last 10 days of the school year. So that will certainly help us with substitute coverage and making it a little bit more manageable for honoring personal days. Also, unused personal days will transfer to sick days rather than being paid out. Our current practice is that if a teacher has a personal day left, we pay them what we would normally have paid the substitute, the per diem substitute teacher, the $110. So instead of paying that, it will simply become a sick day and go into the teacher's sick bank. We added for parents' convenience especially, fall evening parent-teacher conferences for grades K to 8. So in addition to the early dismissal and late arrival times, we'll also have an evening time option for parents that are working during the day. We removed Learner's Edge and video courses from the tuition reimbursement and column movement going forward after July 1, challenging professional staff to take some more rigorous types of coursework. We provided a $2,500 retirement bonus if employees let us know by March 1st of each year that they're planning on retiring. The reason for that bonus is it helps us with budgeting as we're getting close to, we're in that mode right now. And it also will help us with recruitment for teachers as we're entering and going out to job fairs and starting to do preliminary interviews and planning for the next year. So that's just a nice bonus for teachers that are planning to retire to let us know. Right now, there's no incentive in there for them to let us know at all. And employees must go to off-district medical and prescription insurance when they become Medicare eligible. Right now, our current contract, teachers can stay on our medical and prescription for as long as they like, even after they're eligible. for Medicare. You can imagine, since we're self-funded, what that does to our health experience. So it's better if we can get them on the Medicare system as opposed to being on our medical. So that will go into effect for July 1. Also, we'll have a committee to discuss adjustments to the Instructional and Professional Development Committee, or IPD committee, looking at that language and modifying that committee a little bit. And some additional language was edited to better to reflect our current practices and clean up some of the language, that was in there, but those really don't have kind of financial impact. So in summary, as Ms. Brace and Dr. Yanni and Dr. Levinowitz had mentioned, this agreement was reached after very productive early discussions in November and December with the association negotiating team and the district team. So it's great to be ahead of the game. We would have had to start negotiating by January 10th. So we're in really good shape, and that certainly helps us as well, planning for future budgets, having that settled, ready to go. So we'll open up for questions or discussion from board.
Yeah, are there any questions from board members? Mr. Sirota?
We just clarify for everyone, when we say the number of teachers, currently 334.2, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the number of members of the association, not all of whom are what we traditionally refer to.
Yes, you're correct. That would include, say, nurses, OT, PT, librarian, so on.
Thank you. Sherpier?
I have two questions. Number one is there's an assumption that the number of teachers is going to remain stable, and I just wanted to know how realistic that is. And the other question I have is what is the number of districts that's involved in the medical consortium? Because I seem to remember that there was some discussion on that previously, and I just want to see how that's developed. Thanks.
I'll answer the second one first. The consortium currently has 12 districts in the consortium. About 6,600 members and employees are in the plan. So even though some districts pulled out of the consortium, we are still pretty significant in size and still maintain quite a bit of our bargaining power. The first question, realistic. We're not sure because it always comes down to enrollment, and that is always something that we take into consideration, as well as any other initiatives that we might have. That number could, as I said, increase, but at least for planning purposes, because we don't know what that might look like right now, we just kept the number static to plan and cost it out. Right.
That's always the assumption when you are costing out, that the number of teachers will remain the same. You don't factor in retirement or
Ms. Rothman?
I wanted to, I guess, dovetail on what Mark said about the number of teachers. That number also doesn't include people who are actually in the classroom, like our curriculum coordinators and people like that who are actually in our Act 93 agreements, but they might actually be in the classroom as well.
Right. Our current curriculum coordinators are in the Act 93 agreement, so they wouldn't be counted, but they do have some teaching responsibilities.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, we will move on to the next presentation. Ms. Bray doing the revenue budget presentation, and I believe some timelines too.
Yes, tonight is the first budget presentation for 2019-20 at a legislative meeting. But as I believe Dr. Levinowitz, you mentioned earlier, or maybe it was Dr. Yanni, we have been discussing budget for the last 3 months at our finance committee. So in December, the board adopted the opt-out resolution at the legislative meeting. What does that mean? We will not increase the real estate taxes for 2019-20 more than 2.3%. You'll hear that number several times tonight. It's baked into the revenue section, but that was the first step. Capital Projects 5-year plan was presented at the Operations Committee, always a work in progress, but it's no different than the 5-year projection model or even what we just discussed for the contract settlement. Projections change constantly. That is the constant. Finance Committee meeting presentations also included Mrs. Clegg at a pupil services budget. We had the technology budget, and we'll jump ahead, but we've had curriculum budgets as well. And of course, in December, negotiations were underway. But as of this evening, we have good news. In January, at the, again, finance, we had facilities budget and curriculum budget, and then the first look at revenue. I'll give you a teaser for February. Robbins will be there to talk about the transportation budget February 21st. Budget discussions with cabinet and leadership team continue, and for the first time, as we continue to expand the involvement on budget, the principals have met with all the cabinet to present their budget to cabinet. That was a new experience for them. In February, transportation, Lockton, who is the third-party administrator for the consortium, the Buckmont Montgomery County Schools Healthcare Consortium, will be here to present on February 21st. That will be the first time they have spoken to us. Typically, we have, and we'll note that Gallagher is planned to attend March. We also plan to have the legislative meeting with expenditures, part 1, if you will be presented on the 21st. So we are moving ahead. And staffing meetings actually will begin. Talked about enrollment, and we will be working on that. March, again, I've already alluded to what's going to be happening in expenditures part 2, and that's really the more meaty, the 1100, the 1200s, and those type of functions where we get into the detail. And 1100, of course, will have about $50 million of the budget right there. So there's a lot of discussion that will happen in that area. The deadline to file homestead applications will be with the Montgomery County Assessor's Office, or will be March 31st. Hopefully everybody in the room that lives in Upper Dublin or anywhere in Pennsylvania has filled that out. Homes that have turned over on transfer tax will receive another questionnaire to fill out. April, Finance Committee, we're just really into the updates at that particular point in time. Secretary of the Budget should certify that there's going to be some property tax relief, and then the Secretary of Budget authorizes PDE to provide that tax relief. That happens in the middle of February. And May, when PDE notifies the districts of the amount for property tax relief, we do the calculation based on the certified list from Montgomery County and the number of homesteads. That month, Finance Committee will be update, and usually at that point we have a good idea of what current year operations for 18-19 will be, and oftentimes there might be other transfers to be recommended. May 20th, the legislative meeting is a little bit earlier due to the holiday. The proposed final budget will be presented to the board for approval that night. And then in June, we wrap it up. We have advertising deadlines we have to follow according to Act 1, and then the board will take action on the final budget on June 24th, and then the business office has the responsibility to file PDE 2028 with PDE and then file the tax rates with DCD. So, with that quick look at what we have to do, let's go back to June 30th, 2018. Because any budget is a living document, and it's very much impacted by our history. So back on June 30th of 2018, fund balance in the general fund was $10.7 million. There was a commitment for assessment appeals of approximately $1 million. That amount has been consistent. There was also a commitment for health insurance rate stabilization of about $2.6 million. We used last year $3.8 million to balance the budget, theoretically. But as we move through the year, we don't expect to see that number. Non-spendable for inventory and prepaids was only $110,000, and then unassigned fund balance of 3.3. But one of the very nice changes that we've seen over the last few years, as far as balances, capital projects fund stood at $7.5 million, and the debt service fund stood at $3.2 million. And since the end of the year, we've also borrowed one obligation series of bonds, general obligation bonds, for Sandy Run Middle School, and that was about 9.9 is what we settled there. So looking ahead for 2019-20, I'm sure you can all tell me what the PSERS rate is going to increase because of the previous presentation, but we're going up to 34.29%. We've talked about healthcare and RX prescription increases already. We've talked about contract salary increases. Staffing considerations are underway. Sandy Run construction is in the process. We have purchased some, in fact, on tonight's agendas, not buses, but purchased 2 vans as we try to do replacement of our vehicles. And then facilities maintenance, and then future funding for the same. With that, let's start talking about numbers. Total revenue, we look at local, state, federal, and then another revenue, which has to do with our Chromebook lease, and it's a number of $150,000 revenue, but on the expenditure side, you will find there will be $150,000 expense, so it nets out to zero. But anyway, total revenue at this point, $103,077,925. Now, this is another one of those slides that I want to take a little bit of time on. Assessment, which is one of the factors that we use to calculate our real estate tax. July 1st, 2018, it was $2,265,906,507. But by January 28th, we have bumped up by $27 million. So rather than just calculating what the Act 1 index would bring, I wanted to break it down into 2 parts. Because right now, when we go through the local revenue, what we've calculated it on is the assessment as of January 28th. And I know you've all heard me talk about assessment appeals, which could impact bring that down. So the increased assessment is going to bring almost $900,000 to the district at this point in time. Act 1, about 1.7 for a combined increase in real estate tax revenue of $2.6 million at 2.3%. Real estate tax. Now with this slide, we're looking at our budget versus the estimate. That's the 2018-19 budget versus estimate. The first line, real estate taxes, includes not only current, which I was just speaking, also includes interim, public utility tax, and payment in lieu of tax. And I'll pause just briefly there, because for this year we have an unusual amount of $150,000 related to the Madison estate as far as payment in lieu of tax. So that $867,473 is a 1.2% increase, substantial. Big part of that has to do with interim real estate taxes, having to do with a favorable assessment appeal that settled for us just about at the end of the year. And we have collected interim taxes for the current year. Now next year that'll roll over into current tax. But that was approximately $400,000 for one assessment. Moving along from there, earned income tax, much smaller amount, but it is increasing nicely. I always check that with Berkheimer and take a look at what that amount will be. And they're saying it will probably collect $5.4 million this year. Transfer tax has to do with selling of the new properties. That amount appears to be on schedule, what we have estimated. Delinquent real estate taxes We're expecting a settlement of a property that has been delinquent for a number of years that will favorably impact this year. If we miss the mark and it doesn't impact and settle this year, we would fully expect that to roll over into the next year. But based on the timing, I think we're going to collect it before June 30th. Interest income, we've pulled that just a small amount of $50,000. And then the other revenues are for things such as student fees for field trips, Chromebook, IDEA, which is actually federal money, but we have to report it in the local area, or local taxes. And that's really about it, but it's up 8% for this year. Moving on to local revenue, budget to budget year. You will notice again, look at the top line item, the increase of $2,514,370, which is 3.5, certainly much more than 2.3%, just real estate tax. That has to do with the increased assessment primarily, as well as, remember, this was a collection of several other taxes, interim, public utility, and payment in lieu, but we doubt that we'll have any of that money. Real estate earned income tax, again, checked with Berkheimer. We're pulling that a little bit more than what we did for the current year, $225,000, 4.3%. Transfer tax, flat. Delinquent real estate taxes, $700,000, up a little bit, but I'm telling you, our collections are more favorable, and so that means the money is collected sooner in current real estate back to the top line. And that's one that we'll look and watch. We have changed that before as we've through the process. Once again, earned income tax, not any different from what I was speaking of for the current year. A small decrease in other revenue. So moving from the local to the state. First of all, Governor Wolf will report his 1920 budget on Tuesday, February the 5th. The Independent Fiscal Office projects spending will increase by $2.9 billion at this point in time, but revenue will only rise by about $1 billion, creating a $1.7 billion deficit at the state level. So we'll see where it goes. We're certainly passing a fair funding resolution later on, but when I read this, I'm going, how will that happen? Anyway, PASBO is providing a seminar on February 13th, which we'll be listening to see how that might impact the district. I'm going to go through pretty quickly budget to estimate for the state amount. As you can see, with the exceptions of Social Security and the PSERS reimbursement, both of those amounts are calculated on about a $47 million salary total. There aren't many material changes at this point in time. Other revenue from the state include a medical subsidy, a Ready to Learn grant, and this year we have $25,000 coming in because of, I'll say safety grant. There's a certain $25,000, the name gave me, and we should be receiving it. We haven't yet, but Dr. Yanni has signed all the paperwork. I think we'll get our money a little bit later, some other districts that are around us. 1920, again, looking ahead, we're just budgeting for basic ed and special ed the same as what we've received this year. Not expecting anything substantial. Transportation, the rental subsidy, very minor change. Right now, property tax, we always at this point budgeted for the same as last year. That number will change, but then we have to change the local revenue by an equal amount. So ultimately, it's not a change to the bottom line. That is total revenues. PSERS and Social Security, the retirement, are calculated on about $49 million right now, salary for the next year, and for an overall increase in total revenue state level at 2.1%, most of which is driven by a reimbursement revenue, if you will. Federal tax or federal revenue, pardon me, always a small amount for Upper Dublin. Our allocation has, what we've been notified, has been reduced a bit, well, 15.6%, but not a lot of money in total absolute dollar amounts. Title II as well, and we're down about 33,000, but that's the 3% of the federal budget. Federal revenue moving forward, we're basically budgeting flat the next year. Not an exciting amount. So just a bit of a picture here for everyone. Local revenue is 82% of our revenue budget. 18% comes from the state, and of course, in this small amount, $400,000 isn't even a blip on the screen for calculating a percentage. And if we were to look, well, I was going to talk about what comprises even our local revenue. We could break that down into other pieces, which we did in the next slide. Real estate tax is about 89% of that piece of pie that's local. Earned income tax, I believe that's about 6%. Dr. Yanni, I apologize, even I'm having trouble differentiating between the various shades that we have here. Real estate transfer tax, I believe, is 1%. But as you can see, the real estate tax percent is king in Upper Dublin, as it is in most school districts in the southeastern Pennsylvania area, particularly those of us with close to a 0.15 aid ratio. And we threw this in, we talked about this at finance, this bar graph, just to show that even though our assessment has gone up substantially since the beginning of the year, we still every once have a downturn when a property assessment come through and are reduced by the Board of Assessment from Montgomery County. And I guess because of my experience with the infamous hub a number of years ago, I always want to be very cautious and always keep the portfolio of assessment appeals in mind as we budget. Thank you for staying with me.
Thank you, Ms. Bray. And we will now take questions or comments from my colleagues on the board, if there are any. Anybody left? Dr. Ludwig?
Now, you mentioned that we're not expecting payment in lieu of taxes after this year. Could you explain for everyone why that might be the case?
Well, and I perhaps should explain a little bit about payment in lieu of taxes. It's an unusual item to have, certainly $150,000, but a few years ago when there was work that was beginning on the Madison estate, we got together with the owners of the property, the current owners, and the developers who are working on the property about the fact that while they took the time to move through development and zoning and planning commission for approval of the project, that we weren't receiving, and this is the township, this is the county, and the school district. So we worked out a contract called payment in lieu of taxes. So last year it was $75,000. The current year it's $150,000. Actually, slightly more than that, a little more than $150,000. But we're not expecting that for next year because my understanding. Well, first of all, there's no contract, but while it might behoove us if there wasn't going to be approval and some move forward, that we would go back and ask for that. But I believe that the township is posed or getting ready to do the approval. So we'll be waiting for the first interim assessment, which might be in 1920, but I doubt it. I think that'll be in the.
Any other questions from this side? Anyone on this side? Okay, Mr. Rowski.
Yes, on slide 14 and 15, the numbers don't add up for the 2018-2019 budget for local revenue down at the bottom. I don't, the 81,144,778 doesn't add up. You add all those numbers together.
The number that we're looking at, are you looking at,
14, slide 14. Those numbers there.
okay, the 81,144,778?
That column doesn't add up to that number.
Well, Ms. Baldessano will be looking at that then. We can move on.
On both 14 and 15.
14 and 15.
And also, could you elaborate on the homestead exemption? Do the homeowners need to apply for that every year, or is it just new homeowners that are moving into the town?
It's just, they do not need to apply for it every year, and it is only applicable to properties that have transferred or been sold. So you might, if you move within the township, you would want to file for it again in your new homestead. And thank you for bringing the question. As you can see, Ms. Baldessano has her laptop and is looking at it.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, seeing none. Next on the agenda is community input. First community input of the evening. There'll be a second one at the end of the night. Please state your name and where you reside in the township, and board policy. It's 4 minutes.
I remembered for the first time.
Testing. Yeah. Andrew Bush, Maple Glen. Just a couple quick comments. This on those slides that you were just showing, Ms. Bray. The state revenue numbers also weren't tying in together on slides 18 and 19. As the yeah. Okay, just letting you know. And then I saw that on the school calendar, one of the notes that was made was that there's evening conferences for the fall. I think that's great. I appreciate that personally. And I was curious whether or not that's also going to happen in the spring, whether or not that's going to be possible, or if that's a future negotiation point on the next contract or something like that. The other comment I wanted to make was about community input. I know that there's, I believe, a vote tonight on that. I again urge to try to consider the community itself and the ability to make comments during that time. A lot of people, as you can see even tonight, I know that there's a special circumstance with a lot of people here with, all the recognitions, which is fabulous. But that just, prolongs that and then makes it longer for the future input. And also it doesn't really give a chance for since we can't communicate directly during the feedback to our community input, it limits the ability to potentially follow up on that on the second community input if there's not a one. So, thank you. Bye.
Anita Brest for Fort Washington. I'm going to start with the potential policy change you're going to vote on. Also, you have the second reading of the, I don't know, I think it's 006 related to meetings, how you run your meetings. I've said some of it before, probably. But anyway, to limit topics on the first community input just seems to me a huge step backward. And I do understand that it maybe worked great in other districts, but other districts haven't had communication problems, the years of communication problems that we've had that have not been addressed. There was a communication survey just, I believe, as Dr. Wheeler came, and then we didn't get the results of it till the end of her first year. And I certainly can't say that it was addressed. The problems there were definitely some problems in the communication survey. So I think it's a step backward towards improving communication and building trust. Trust is important to me. Keeping transparency. People won't always have time to stay to the end. I also think it's ironic that you put language in there that students can choose any topic they want. If they speak, it's first community input. And that's great. I understand why you're doing it. You want them to go home and do their homework. But no disrespect to students, but what I think I see is disrespect to the taxpayers. That we, the taxpayers, fund everything here. Everything that was talked about tonight, everything that will be talked about in future meetings and past meetings. We fund everything from the superintendent's salary to, books to, I could go on and use all my minutes on what we fund. Every single bit of it is from public taxpayer money. So to say, well, students can use the first community input for all topics, but not you, is, I think it's a little bit disrespectful, and I think it's a step in the wrong direction. And I also just want to say about taxpayers, we're either your best public relations source or your worst, or somewhere in the middle. There's no question that every one of us gets questions on whether we should move here, whether it's kids. Some of us have kids that are looking for houses. Some of us have colleagues, like I do, that somebody asked my husband about Upper Dublin. He said some good things, and he said the taxes are out of control. And they said, yeah, we noticed that when we came and looked at some open houses. So we're either your best PR source or your worst. And any amount of hiring a PR person isn't going to make up for that. Just some quick things on the contract. First of all, I want to thank Tom and Brenda for doing a presentation. I always wish the presentation could be before the night of the vote, because I have a lot of questions, which I'm obviously not going to get to. But I just want to ask, how confident is everyone, or I don't know, maybe I have to ask a specific person, is everyone confident that we do have enough new income coming in? Because remember that some of us, well, Brenda was here for that, and Tom, it wasn't just, you were not here for that last time, so 2 contracts ago, so it wasn't your fault. But we had a situation around 2013, 14, I think, where we had to, the district was running huge deficits because one of the contracts was requiring too much money considering what you can do through Act 1. So that's where those 10 furloughs came in. So I'd like to know, are you pretty confident that the amount of new money coming in is good enough for that and to get this contract funded without deficit? And does anyone have a handle yet on how much new money? And maybe also another question I have is how much needs to go for the debt service? And is that, I know you have some in a capital fund, but you must also need additional money besides that. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Community input? Seeing none, we will close community input. And thank you for your input tonight. Dr. Yanni, any response? All right.
Oh, so evening conferences, yes. So evening conferences right now will be for the fall only, not in the spring, but it is, I think, a move in the right direction and something that I think we all can agree that is needed for parents, especially for families that both parents are working.
Are there any other comments from the board? Okay, Ms. Rancic.
Just addressing communication in general. Certainly, we've talked about this quite a bit. The board's strong intention in hiring Dr. Yanni was to address many of the communication challenges that we've had over the years. And I think as Monday morning messages came out this morning, and we continue to get board briefs and many other forms of communication, I think we are addressing many of those issues. And we have further work to do. So one of the things that we're going to be announcing for sometime, hopefully in the next few months, is a town hall opportunity where we will, as a board, be able to speak more informally to community members. It is challenging in these legislative meetings and in the board meetings to have that dialogue. And I think that over the years is what I've heard as a big source of frustration. So rather than focus our attention on the time in the meetings when we can't have that dialogue, to create new opportunities to have that. So I'm hoping that we find a way to address those concerns and streamline the meetings and really continue to build that trust that I think Dr. Yanni has done an outstanding job of certainly growing in the last few months.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, and the last comment regarding community input for items that are not on the agenda, I would like to just ask the community if they have questions during the month to not wait for the legislative meeting to ask the question if it's not on the agenda. You can send it to the appropriate person. You can send it to Dr. Yanni if it's at that level. So just to wait until a legislative meeting to bring up a topic at the beginning that's not on the agenda, why wait? Why not bring that topic or that question up sooner and not wait for the legislative meeting? It may be appropriate for the committee meeting. Any other comments? Okay, we will now move on to announcements and communications. Ms. Bray, any announcements or communications?
Done this evening.
Okay, do we have minutes?
We have a number of minutes for the reorganization meeting in December, as well as the legislative meeting also in December, and there were 6 meetings or minutes from both November and.
Okay, so we have hours of minutes.
Exciting minutes.
Okay, 3 categories of minutes. May I have a motion to approve all the minutes?
So moved.
Ms. Rothman, second. Second, Ms. Good. Any comments or questions regarding the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, moving on to education. Dr. Ludwig.
There is one information item, as usual, regarding enrollment, and then there are 2 motions, student activities and conferences. Both were discussed at the Education Committee meeting. I will point out that there are a few additions to the conferences, but I will move that we approve both.
Okay, motion made, second. Okay, Ms. Rancic. Comments or questions on the items under Education Committee tonight? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, moving on to technology. Dr. Ludwig.
There's a one motion under technology, and that also was discussed in the Education Committee, and I move for it.
Okay, is there a second? Sherpier. Comments or questions? Infinite campus proposal. Looking forward to that. Okay, seeing no comments or questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Moving on to pupil service recommendations. Dr. Ludwig, you want to take this? Mr. Kim, Dr. Kim is not here.
There are 2 motions tonight. One is to approve a contract with Frontline Education for a special education program management system, and the other is for a contract for speech and occupational therapy for special education. I move we approve both.
Okay, is there a second? Ms. Sherpier. Okay, comments or questions on the 2 items under education pupil service recommendations? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Moving on to operations, Mr. Sirota.
Thank you. We have 5 items tonight. 4 of them were discussed in the operations committee, and 1 of them is related to those. I will move that we approve all 5.
Okay, 5 items under operations, all discussed previously. Motion made. Is there a second? Second, Ms. Rothman, I believe. Okay, well, any comments or questions?
I'd just like
Yes, sir.
to invite Ms. Bray to tell us about the one that's not, that we didn't.
Okay. The additional roadway design services?
Yes, in late November, or it's dated November 20th, but it was submitted to administration. I received it, but it did not get put on the committee meeting agenda for the last 2 months. Obviously, we need to have the work, so now before the board. My apologies.
Okay. So 5 items on operations. There was a first and a second. Clarification on item D. Mr. Ross?
Yes, Mr. Robbins, could you comment on whether or not the vans were on budget or below budget or above budget?
From They did come in under budget. I budgeted. Let me find what I. I estimated originally that they were going to be about $35,000 per van. For two vans, that's $70,000, and they came in under 60,000 total.
Savings of 10,000.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the Operations Committee recommendations tonight? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, moving on to Finance. Ms. Good?
There we go. Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the first three items listed: Treasurer's Report, Payments, and Eastern Center for Arts and Technology budget. These are new items we haven't seen yet.
Okay, we had a first, we had a second. Items A, B, and C. As long as item C is unanimous, I believe we can do a. So, okay, items A, B, and C. We have first, we have second. Any questions or comments? A, B, C. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, so it's unanimous for the Eastern budget with Dr. Kim not attending.
Okay, then I'd like to take items D through J as one item. We've covered these in committee. I'd like to make a motion to pass those. D through J.
D through J, correct?
Yep.
Okay, second, Dr. Ludwig. Comments or questions on items D through J? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay.
And then item K, which is new, not subject is not new to us. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the fair funding joint resolution of the Board of Directors and of the Upper Dublin Education Association. This is a joint resolution.
Second, Dr. Ludwig. Comments or questions on this item? Okay, I don't see any. Again, I'd like to thank the UDA membership for signing in with this resolution with us. I think, as Ms. Bray indicated, we're not sure how far it's going to go, but the more districts that pass this resolution and share it with their local legislators and the governor, I think it does bring some support. Seeing no other comments, item K, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, personnel, we'll turn it over to Ms. Franczyk.
And a very exciting personnel section here tonight. We're going to take the first item separately. A very important item to approve the collective bargaining agreement between Upper Dublin Education Association and the Upper Dublin School District Board of School Directors, effective July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2023.
Okay, is there a second? Mr. Sirota, comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, is there any abstention?
Wait. Oh.
Is there an abstention?
Yes, I'm in favor of this agreement, but I have to abstain due to my lovely wife being a teacher in the district.
Okay. I'll get you a free dinner maybe tomorrow. Okay. Okay, so 7, 1 absent, and 1 abstain. Okay?
Yeah.
And there's a form, Mr. Borowski, that you need to complete, I
Yes,
believe.
we'll make sure that gets
Okay.
taken care of.
Okay, we have an agreement, 4.5 years.
Now some real applause. There we go. Thank you all for staying tonight.
Thank the
Thank
leadership.
you for all the work.
Okay. Moving on to
Items B and C, please. We have the labor negotiation services and the NovaCare rehabilitation contract. If we could make a motion to approve those.
Okay, so, and Ms. Good, second. Comments or questions on this item? I just want to do a shout out that I normally do with NovaCare Rehab contract. As many of you know who are on the fields of Upper Dublin, we have an amazing person that represents NovaCare and Katie B. And we're just so proud of the work that she does and the support that she gives to the Upper Dublin School District. They're very happy to see that they are continuing working with us. So items B and C, seeing no additional comments. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, moving on to personnel. We didn't have a second for B and C? Okay. Vanessa. Yeah, Ms. Good. Okay, Ms. Good. Okay, I should repeat it. I'm sorry. My bad. Okay, moving on to personnel report. Okay, we did personnel. Okay, moving on to policy then, Ms. Rothman.
I don't believe we did D.
We did not do personnel.
I think we need to do D in personnel report.
Yeah.
My apologies. Item D, which I missed.
Thank you.
I'd like to
Is there
thank you.
a motion is made? Is there a second? Right. I mean, there's a few people on this up on the table that are having mild heart attacks right now.
And there are a few notable items, so congratulations again to Tom and Brenda and Ava and Kathy.
Okay, motion was made. Second? Ms. Good. Okay, comments or questions? Again, my congratulations to Tom, Brenda, and Ava, who's not here tonight. Okay. Any other comments? Personnel report? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Moving on to policy.
Thank you. Just a note, we are continuing the cleanup of our policy book, and tonight you'll see that there are a number of policies for repeal. If you notice, they're the 400s and 500s. So we have now moved on to the employment section of our policy book, and we are in the process of the cleanup is putting all of the employees in the 300 sections. So there's not going to be 3 separate sections for our employees. That's just the note I have. So tonight we have, I make a motion for the second reading and adoption of policy 006, 324, and 330. With those, I make the motion for approval of administrative regulations 324 and 330. And then also I have a motion for the first readings of 314, 331, 342, 352, 353, 356, 007 and 004, and then also the ones noted for first repeal tonight.
Motion made, seconded by Mr. Sirota. Comments or questions on the policy recommendations tonight?
I just have a couple comments, if I may.
Okay.
Thank you. So yes, 006 we discussed at the last meeting. This is one that the policy committee is recommending making the change regarding community input to limit community input in the first community input of the legislative meetings to agenda items only. There is, of course, a second community input at the end of the meetings for all items. Another notable policy tonight is policy 007. This is a new policy that we are recommending the board to adopt regarding conflict of interest for our board members. We haven't had anything like this. This does not come based on any sort of issues we've had, but as best practices. That's all my comment.
Okay, thank you. We had first, we had a second. Any additional comments, Mr. Sirota?
Just to channel Dr. Kim, he's not here. The policies in the zeros are more properly called local board. We just refer to them as policy, but technically board.
Thank you for making that point. Anything else? Okay. Motion, second, no additional comments. This is to approve the policy committee recommendations A through D. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, moving on to other business. Teacher, can you are you there? Business to move that? Yep. Use the mic.
Okay, I propose that we move the motion. Right, for the calendar with December 23rd as the day off, right? November 5th becoming not an in-service but a regular school day. And then June 16th as an additional in-service.
Okay, is there a second? Dr. Ludwig, comments or questions? Mr. Sigafus?
Just for clarification, December 23rd will be a student and staff day off. Those of us that are 12-month employees that still at work year-round,
Yes.
still be a work day.
Right. Good point. Okay, thank you. Dr. Ludwig?
Can't remember if when we discussed the calendar, if you talked about students who want to work on election day.
So if there are any students that want to work the polls on election day, we will honor that request with an excused absence.
Anything else? Okay, motion on the floor. It was seconded regarding the school year calendar for 2019-2020. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, we are moving to liaison committee reports.
May I just
Yes,
ask you
Mr.
a quick question? I
Yes, sir.
apologize for not asking before we voted.
No problem.
So right now, the calendar, as it looks on board docs, is not the calendar we just voted. How will this be, and where will this be disseminated?
We'll update it and we'll make sure that the correct version is distributed out on e-notification, on the website, and on social media.
Thank you, Mark. Liaison committee reports, Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, Dr. Ludwig.
The MCIU met last Wednesday. One of the items discussed was the part of the budget that school districts contribute to, which actually turns out to be about 1% of their budget, and there will be no change from the previous year, and that will come to us as this month we voted on the Eastern budget, which all school districts contribute to. And I believe it will be maybe next month we will vote on our portion of the MCIU budget, which based on the formula will go down a teeny bit, but it'll be basically the same.
Okay, thank you. Montgomery County Legislative Committee, Mrs. Rothman.
Thank you. So we had a meeting on January 16th, as Art well knows because he attended. Prior to the meeting, we had an hour-long meeting with Pennsylvania Schools Work Campaign. This is an organization that is supporting public education and increasing funding from the state specifically because as Art noted earlier, or as Dr. Yanni noted earlier, we're 46th in the nation in the state funding of public education. Based on that presentation and discussion, the resolution that we voted on tonight was discussed, and I believe we are the first district in Montgomery County, if not the state, to pass that resolution. I know that Upper Moreland is hot on our heels, but we just happened to have our meeting before theirs. So after that presentation, the actual legislative meeting that we had discussed not only the PA Schools Work campaign, and what as school districts in Montgomery County we can do to support that. But we also discussed the Safe to Say program. This is an app that you can download on your phone. It's also on the website. This program was put into place by the General Assembly last year, instructing or designating the Attorney General's office to roll out the app and to actually administer the program. So this is something that every teacher, every student, every parent, every community member can download on their phone. And if there is a threat that someone sees on social media, that something someone hears in the community, they can address that threat and put that in the application. And it's a way for the state now to have a repository essentially, because before, if a threat was made in a school district, no one else would really necessarily know about it. There's a bunch of regulations about it, but also law enforcement, of course, is included. And this way, any threat that's heard at any time, the district, as well as appropriate law enforcement, can react. Our next meeting for the legislative committee is on the 28th of February. It's going to be a online meeting because of scheduling conflict.
Thank you, Ms. Rothman. Now on to Eastern Center for Arts and Technology. I'd like to thank the board for supporting the budget again for Eastern. I just want to make an announcement that I indicated before to my colleagues that the current director, executive director, Mr. Tom Allen, is retiring from Eastern. We're proud to have appointed Ms. Kathleen Plesnarski, Dr. Kathleen Plesnarski. She's currently the assistant director at Upper Bucks County Technical School, Percy, PA. She will be assuming the position of executive director on March 18th. There's been we are working already on the transition plan. She'll be joining Eastern and overlapping some of Mr. Allen's days. And we're very excited about her joining us. Very visionary person and understands vocational education. Her EDD is from Delaware Valley University in educational leadership. She has a master's in educational leadership from Lehigh University, and she attended some institution called Penn State, I believe it says on her resume, Penn State. So she's a Penn State girl too, so we're very excited for Dr. Plesnowski to be joining us at Eastern in just a couple of months. Excellence and Equity Steering Committee, Dr. Kim is not here, but Dr. Ludwig will.
So Dr. Kim sent in a report. The first thing is the Gender Equity Group is hosting a Women's Leadership Forum. The date for that is to be determined. The second thing is that the Equity and Excellence is supporting the Township Tricentennial event, with the fall one celebrating 300 years better together. Third, the steering committee met, and Meredith Penner will help lead Equity and Excellence as Ava transitions and leaves the district. Fourth, on February 9th, the Asian American Heritage Month will be celebrated. And fifth, or last, February 22nd will be a celebration of Black.
Okay, moving on to the Educational Advisory Committee, Ms. Sherpier.
All right, the EAC is continuing its research on their 4 topics, and our next meeting will be February 6th.
Okay, Pennsylvania School Boards Association, I did send an email out to the board inviting them to attend this Thursday night. It's the board president's panel. It's not just presidents, vice presidents, and other board members can attend that. There's no cost to the district for any of these trainings. We also have a sectional meeting, which will discuss school safety. On that meeting is on March 7th, and it's going to be, this region will be held at Upper Dublin High School. I'm excited about. And there's also a legal roundup on April 4th, and I know many of my colleagues on the board and probably other administrators will be attending the Advocacy Day in Harrisburg on April 29th. And also National School Boards Association, again, is March 29th through 31st. Moving on from PSBA to PTA, PTO. Ms. Francis.
Thanks. Wanted to thank the Sandy Run PTO for having Don Award from High School Guidance at our last meeting. It was really, really informative, but also very important for all of us parents who are going to be going through that transition over the next year and two. Shout out also to the Maple Glen PTO that has a fantastic Twitter feed at Maple Glen PTO. They are currently underway their Super Bowl 1,000 Can Challenge. So you can drop off soup, ravioli, and stew cans until this Friday, and those donations will benefit local food banks. Outside a bit of the PTA realm, but also a group that their leadership does a tremendous amount speak of Upper Dublin, the Special Education Advisory Council is bringing a screening of the film Intelligent Minds to the PAC on March 13th, 7 p.m. It's a free event. This film is getting a lot of attention nationwide. It's being shown all over the country. Very, very exciting that we have it here. I encourage you to attend. And final thank you to all of the volunteers who came out to our Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service. Many of those volunteers overlap with our PTOs and PTAs, but we also have this robust group of parent volunteers organizing, bringing service projects to their various schools. And so for that, we thank you very, very much. It was an incredibly successful day.
Okay, thank you. Township, Borowski.
Yes, Mr. President, we did not meet in January. However, our next meeting is February 20th.
Thank you. Upper Dublin Education Foundation. It's
Yes.
been busy.
Yes, been busy. This past Saturday, in conjunction with efforts from our teachers and UDEA, the foundation had a very successful fundraiser with the Harlem Wizards, and it was really a fun night. Lots of people attended, and we want to thank everybody for their work on it. Foundation meets tomorrow evening.
Okay, thank you. Solicitor's report, Mr. D'Alessio.
Thank you. I'll begin with the executive session announcements. Last legislative meeting, the board met in executive session on January 14th, 2019. Also, and prior to the meeting this evening, January 28th, 2019, discuss matters. No, I had also planned to announce the rollout of the Safe State program, but Rothman covered that in her legislative committee update, so I won't repeat that. Next up, the Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry has announced new bed threshold 2019, so we'll likely be looking to update the board policy procurement in the near future. And finally, as I believe all the board members know at this point, Chris and I will be sharing responsibility for coverage of the legislature given the schedule. So while I've been here before and enjoy working with the group, I'll look forward to everybody on a little bit more of a regular. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Levinowitz?
Yes.
Yeah, over here.
Oh.
Business
Ms. Bray.
administrator. If I could, before we go to community input, I know it's not usual that I would jump in here. Just wanted to comment on Dorothy's observation. Total revenue on both pages is correct. However, other revenue was in for $500 less than what should have been. So that total on that particular other revenue for both year or for both slides, same year, should $1,301,500. I apologize for that keying mistake. And what a member of our public commented on actually had been changed live, but copies were made, paper copies were made earlier. So what was presented was correct. Thank you. I apologize for
Thank you, Ms. Bray. We are now seeing no other comments or statements from the board. We are now up to our second community input. Please state your name and where you reside, and it's 4 minutes.
Jen Cousins, Fort Washington. I just want to say that I'm a little bit disappointed to see that policy pass tonight. I can appreciate the school board's position of how they're looking to better communicate in the future. However, I feel like there are certain maybe ways or procedures to go about things to gain the trust of the community. So maybe implementing those things and then creating a policy after the communication issues have been fixed might have been a more effective way to do it with the public. I'll say that it took, we went all the way to 8:27 tonight before the first community input even happened. And the first community input was 6 minutes. So we're kind of further eroding the trust or the communication or however we want to look at it to save 6 minutes. It's always pretty much the same people who show up to the meetings. It's not like we have long lines unless something big happens, like a bus depot being sprung on us and things of that nature. So I just think it's a little bit disappointing. Thank you.
Ginny Vitella Ambler. Put this down. I had other things to bring up that were not on the agenda, but I will start with the policy, and I would have to say, agreed, disappointing at best. We happen to be the same, like 4 people that show up at the meetings anyway, so now we actually know the policy and know the rules. But how about that poor community member that walks in and has an issue, doesn't know where else to turn and shows up? What are you going to tell her, sit down and not speak? I think it's terrible. It's going to lead to combative issues, and it seems completely ironic that the only people speaking at a meeting were against this policy, and they're the same people that show up at the meetings, and so I can't help but think that it's a little personal. And it's really offensive to anyway, I wrote down, and I can't read my writing, so I'm losing my thoughts. I think this puts a larger divide between the taxpayers in the community and the board. If I can make a meeting, I come to a meeting, I say something, and now you're saying we can't say something. And what happens when something's not on the agenda, like a Field of Dreams being taken over? This is huge. Where else are people supposed to turn en masse? Anyway, my other points that were unrelated completely, but bringing it up at a school board meeting, legislative, because they cover various things, and I don't even know what meeting to go to bring them up. But their concerns, which I brought up before, and I really want them to kind of be thought about when we look at our vision of our district and we go into maybe some comprehensive planning, and when the board thinks about things they want to do and administrative. I just have some comments. As I'm about to get into the high school next year with my student, my oldest child, the gym situation versus for someone who plays a sport is bothersome to me, that we have to make up gym, but we won't have to make up chemistry class because the away sports games that have to be taken away. My son plays one sport at Sandy Run, but he will plan to be a 3-sport athlete at Upper Dublin if all goes well. And I know that Abington does it. I know someone told me that Abington does it this way, where it's trimester gym. If you have a sport, you don't have gym that semester, so they have that open period for study hall. They are jam-packed with time and lots of studying, and I think those kids that are in a sport deserve to be able to skip gym for that trimester. The other concern I have, tremendous, is the doors versus windows at Fort Washington Elementary School. I wasn't at that meeting, so I couldn't bring it up then, so I'm bringing it up now. And thankfully, we have everyone here. The windows, the doors that are used in the 5th grade hallway, 3rd grade hallway, 1st and 2nd grade hallway, they are used when we have fire drills, evacuation drills, intruder drills. If not, now every single kid is going to be funneled into those hallways as opposed to going right out their door into safety. I think the new thing for intruders or other things is to be able to run and scatter, not hide. If we don't have doors in those classrooms, I feel that children are less safe under most circumstances than they would be, because now we're going to be packed in sardines in the middle of the hallways. 3rd grade and 1st and 2nd grade have to go down steps, right, all at the same time for a drill. Right now, they just go through one classroom, and some people cross over the classroom to get over. So really, I hope it's not money that's causing a problem, but really for safety reasons, I think it is less safe not to have those doors in all those hallways the way Fort Washington is constructed. And I'm running out of time, so I won't get to my other 2 points at the next. Thanks.
Nita Brisk, Fort Washington. Certainly on the policy, I agree with everything that Jen and Ginny just said. I definitely think it is not the way to build trust. It is the way to erode trust. And as far as the town hall meetings that Amy, you brought up, that's great. I'm all for town hall meetings, but I don't think it's the same as a board meeting. I don't think you're going to have town hall meetings every single month, and I doubt that all 9 board members would be there, and I doubt that all the important administrators would be there. So I see a legislative meeting as a different type of meeting, and to make it so that people are limited to their topic on the first community input, I think is a big mistake, and I just think it shows a lack of respect to the taxpayers who, as I said, pay for every single thing here and are either your best or worst PR people for the district that they live I asked a couple questions. Maybe I didn't make them clear, but Art, you moved right on and didn't ask Brenda or Tom. You didn't give Tom or Brenda a chance to answer my questions on the contract or on the budget. So I'm going to ask them again. I believe what I was trying to get at is if it's $5.5 million in new money, I'm trying to get at how much do we need. I'll try to make it simple. How much do we need to fund our debt service for next year? If I could get that amount, I would be interested to know how much we need to fund next year's debt service. And we know we will need 5.5 million in new money. So how much do we have an idea revenue wise? How much new money is coming in? And I want to know if, what it is so I can see if it covers those two things. I did ask a very specific and easy to answer question, which was, are the people, voting on the contract confident that this contract will not lead to large deficits like one of the past contracts did, which then led to teachers having to give back money, and it led to 10 teachers being furloughed. No one was willing to answer the question. One other thing I'll put out there is I'm curious to know if anyone has information on how this new contract, where does it place our teachers? As far as comparison, there's a article I have from 2017. It's called Pennsylvania Schools with Highest Average Teacher Salaries, and it's published by a group called Penn Live. There may be a newer version of this, and I realize teacher salaries are always in flux. It depends on what district has recently negotiated contracts. But in this one, Upper Dublin is listed as having the 10th highest teacher salary, and that's out of the entire state. So that's out of approximately 500 districts. So I'm just curious now with the new one, does anyone have any information on whether we are still the 10th highest, or did we move up a little bit, or did we move down a little bit? 10th highest out of 500 districts is pretty high. And the year that we had that deficit, that never should have happened. That's part of how we got that high. And then it all went kind of badly. So I have 21 seconds. Are we clear? I would like to know how much this coming year's debt service is going to be, and how much new revenue we expect, and does it at least cover the debt service and the 5.5 million? And if it covers a lot more than that, that'd be great. I'd like to know what the number is.
Andrew Bush, Maple Glen. I think this is a good example of a miscalculation about this procedure that's coming in now that was voted. Myself and at least one of the other people in the community asked questions and they didn't go answered. And if they weren't agenda items initially, then we would have had to wait for the second community input, and we wouldn't have had a chance now to come back and ask these questions. So my follow-up question is related to the policy 006 is what happens with the second community input that we get the chance to come back, and if there's a clarification or a question that as a follow-up question to something that we do give in that second community input, there's no chance in this forum to do that. One of my recommendations in an email to the board a couple months ago was to have a final community input at the end. Maybe that's a fair balance. Yes, it might keep you there a little bit longer, maybe 5 minutes, maybe, for those couple questions that might come up, or potentially split that first community input into two parts. Put the first one in as action items, so that everybody can get their word in about all the different items that are on the agenda, and then take it to a second level and have the additional items in there. That way you get everybody in there. Those were two fair points that I think I made earlier in communications to the board back in 2018 when this all came up. And I would, again, recommend you maybe look at that again. I know it's probably not going to happen, but I think it's a fair thing, and I think it's something that should be looked at in the future. Lastly, I just want to say to Ms. Bray, Mr. Sigafus, and Ms. Morrison, thank you for your time here. I appreciate it personally, and I'm sure the community does as well. And good luck to you guys in the future.
Any comments from the board? Mr. Serrata?
I'll let somebody else handle the amount of debt service for next year, but the 5.5 million is new money over 4 years, not over 1 year. Brenda or Tom can be more specific about how much is needed next year. But I want to address the confidence question. I think the confidence question was answered. In terms of where we are in the state, that is something we paid attention to while negotiating. Like you say, it's impossible to have a future number. We don't know where we're going to be. We will still be here, but not at the top. That we are 10th in the whole state is not surprising. This whole area is top in the whole state just because cost of living is so much higher here. But we will continue to be at or near the top both in Montgomery County and in the state.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. There, Ms. Rothman?
I can make some comments about the community input policy. It's a policy that we've been talking about for the last few months. It's something that we've done in coordination with Dr. Yanni. And I think that it gets to the heart of what our legislative meetings are. They're a working meeting to get the agenda done. Obviously, we still have input at the end for any issues. And tonight, I just want to note that the comments at the beginning of the meeting were all about agenda items. So it's not about cutting any of those times, for instance. This is not something that was done in a personal way to be combative or anything like that. It was done in consideration with our administration as well as our solicitor. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Seeing none, Ms. Bray?
I just want to reiterate some of the things that Tom and I, Mr. Sigafus and I went over in the earlier presentation. For the first year, as far as UDA, we're expecting an increased cost of about $1.2 million, including users and the salary piece. Next month, we'll be looking at debt service and TEL. We do have budget items to be considered as far as the next borrowing is concerned, so debt isn't all mapped out for next year yet. And I did mention, we went over fairly extensively on slide number 13, what the increased amount of revenue will be driven out by assessment as well as the Act 1. There's a breakdown on that. At this point in time, if the tax increase remains at 2.3%, we're expecting about an additional $2.6 million. I believe Mr. Sigafus has something to say.
To answer the question, I would say certainly we have to be fiscally prudent and approach each budget year. The expenses that we have in mind, accordingly. We can't go wild and say that this contract is something forward. But if we look at like our past settlements and the amount of new money that we needed for each of the years, like in 17, 18, we needed 1.1 billion. That was even for PCERS was considered in there. So we certainly build the budget with the expectation of what it is we're looking for. But the 1.75 that we had as an increase for this year as well as last year was something we were able to incorporate in the budget. But every year it's a challenge to make sure that our expenses and our revenues are balancing out. I think the article that Ms. Brister mentioned talked about lifetime or career earnings, with Upper Dublin being the 10th highest. if I can call it the article. So it sort of goes with the assumption somebody's starting out, year one and going through retirement, say 35 years, and project out how much, the individual would have earned during that time. So I think as the board member had mentioned, Southeast Pennsylvania typically does rank high on that list because of salary.
Other observation regarding debt service. We know what our debt service is when we know when our debt service is. Meaning, this year when we borrowed the $9.8 or $9.9 million, we budgeted a certain amount of money, but then after we went out and for the bonds, I believe this year there was a savings of over $200,000 in debt service for the first year. So we know what our debt service is when we know what our debt service is, and we still have decisions to make in terms of how much we're going to be going out next year and the year after. So in your presentation, you will be presenting what our current debt service is, but there are decisions that still need to be made.
And certainly we talked about those, so there will be some expectation as to what debt service will be for 1920 on Sandy Run as well. And I was trying to pull up a spreadsheet, can't find it, but looking back during my tenure, I believe there was only 1 year where we actually fund balance, and that was a combination of a lot of factors. But we also need to remember the Great Recession was in there as part of it, and certainly we do consider economic realities and what is being predicted moving forward, but certainly we don't plan for a recession.
Okay. I see no other comments from the board or the superintendent. We have item 20, lists our meetings coming up, our policy meeting on the February 11th, education committee meeting on the 11th, operations and finance on February 21. And our next legislative meeting will be February 25th. May I have a motion to adjourn? Ms. Good first and Ms. Rothman second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?